Adventures in the markets and on the road. Legendary investor Jim Rogers began his financial career after graduating with a bachelor's degree in history from Yale University. Then in 1973, Rogers and George Soros founded the Quantum Fund, one of the world's first truly international funds. After generating returns of 4,200% over 10 years, at the age of 37, Rogers decided to retire and quit full-time investing. He went on to travel the world a few times over and wrote a few books about what he saw and learned. His investment tourism books, Investment Biker and Adventure Capitalist, are still must-reads for anyone interested in learning how global markets work.
I ran into Jim Rogers most recently at St. Peter's Economic Forum. It was one of those rare occasions, in fact, these days at least, where Westerner investors are seen in Russia. We sat down in our studio there where the conversation began with his grand global tour on a motorcycle. What are those trips for you? What do they mean for you as an investor and as an individual?
I retired early because I wanted to have more than one life. And one of the things I wanted to do was to go around the world on a boat. I wanted adventure. That was the main thing I didn't want to sit in front of a computer all my life. I wanted adventure, to see the world. I went around the world on a motorcycle. It took a long time to get permission. It was so wonderful. I did it again in a car. So, I mean, I like adventure. I like to see the world. I like to know what's going on. I could still be sitting in front of a computer. I'd rather not.
What have you learned through those trips? The biggest things you have learned?
The biggest thing is we're all alike, Tianwei. When you go to this place, they say, where have you been? Oh, I was there. Those are dangerous, horrible people. Where are you going? We're going, oh, you're going to get killed. We're all afraid of each other, but we're all the same. We all like to eat and drink and dance. We like to have a good time. But politicians tell us we're terrible and you should be afraid. Don't listen to the politicians.
Back in the year 1984, wow, think about that. Jim, you were heroic in a way. You made a heroic trip to China on a motorbike.
I drove across China on a motorcycle twice. Yes, that's wonderful.
What was it like, 1984?
Oh, well, 1984 I was just asking permission, but in 1986 they let me everywhere I went. I mean, it was like a Martian. Here was a Caucasian, an American Caucasian, on a motorcycle. Mobs everywhere I went. And every time I drove across China for the next 10 years.
Because people are so curious about you. They've never seen an American.
They'd never seen a Caucasian. They'd never seen a big motorcycle like that. They didn't know what was happening. They thought I was from Mars. But it was wonderful.
What do you make of the Chinese economy? Because years back, you made a big decision. You moved to Singapore. You sold your house in New York. And you say future is gonna be in Asia. And we've seen, though, after this round of financial crisis, the Asian economies also suffer a great deal. China looking for its own growth engine, working hard for any possibility of structural reform. So what do you make of your decision then?
Well, China will have setbacks along the way. It's normal. America, as it rose, had 15 depressions, a civil war, very little rule of law, massacres, we were a mess. And yet, we became the most successful country in the 20th century. China's going to have problems. I don't know what, I don't know when, but everybody has problems. But don't worry. When I see problems in China, I'm going to take advantage. I'm not going to stop teaching my children Mandarin and teach them Danish. You know, the Chinese have a wonderful word which does not exist in English. Wei ji.
Opportunities and crisis all in the same time.
Yes. Yeah, opportunity and crisis are the same thing. Well, English, we don't have that. You invented the word. So when you see problems in China, take advantage of the opportunity.
What do you make of China's economy at this moment as an investor?
Well, the whole world, Tianwei, is having problems and it's going to get much worse. That's going to affect China. Japan is in recession. You trade a lot with Japan. Parts of Europe, parts of America in recession. So the companies which deal with the West, or companies in recession, are going to have problems. Now, Tianwei, it's very important to know also, China now has debt. You did not have debt for many decades. Now you have debt. So some companies are going to go bankrupt. Beijing says we'll let them go bankrupt, which is great. It's hen-how. It's very good because then it will clean out the people with mistakes and China can grow again from a new base.
But what do you make of the next round, the next few years in China, for example?
Some companies that deal with the West or the developed world are going to go back. If they have debt, they're going to go bankrupt. There's no question about that. But other parts of the Chinese economy, if you're in a pollution cleanup, you don't care if America disappears. You're so busy making money. If you're in healthcare in China, China needs enormous healthcare, and Beijing knows that. Agriculture, I'm extremely optimistic about agriculture in China. Some parts of the Chinese economy are going to go like that, and some are going to go like that.
But Jim, this is a very serious issue. Geopolitics, as we all know these days, are playing such a big role in economic prospects. What do you make of the current situation, particularly with the political fights that's going on now in your capital?
Well, every time I go to China, the Chinese people love America. They don't particularly love the American government, and I don't particularly love the American government a lot of times myself. I don't know why some politicians like to make their name by bashing other countries, whether it's Russia or China or whatever. It is a political problem, but China and America should be working together to have great prosperity for everybody. There's a lot of synergy.
But there's also a lot of talk about the strategic conflicts between U.S. and China.
There should be no strategic conflict. That's in politicians' minds. I cannot think of any strategic. America wants to tell everybody what to do, and when China says, you can't tell us what to do, that's a conflict, but that's crazy.
Hotspot issue, South China Sea issue, territorial disputes, DPRK, nuclear issue also in Asia. Not to mention China and U.S. looking for their various positions in the world, even in the Asia-Pacific region. In the U.S., you have a U.S.-led TPP. In China, China is working on OBOR, One Belt, One Road initiative. Not to mention in Eurasian area, there's more of interesting ideas popping up. Jim, there's a lot of ideas. There are a lot of potential points of conflict, some would say.
The One Belt, One Road, it's brilliant. It's fabulous. It's changing geography. Not very often in world history does geography change. China's changing geography. Why is that a conflict? That should be great. A lot of people are going to make a lot of money. I don't see necessary conflict.
Are you a rebel of your culture? Because what you have just said seems to be very much different from many of the voices you could hear from where you are coming from. So is it because you're here in Russia? Is it because you're already living in Asia and therefore you go all the way to talk about your country in a very different lens?
I have always tried to look at the world as it is, not as I'm told by propaganda and media and other people. I'm trying to teach my children, don't listen to them, don't listen to anybody, look at everything and decide for yourself. And I've been doing that a long time.
The world is changing rapidly, and some say the great opportunities now lie in emerging markets. That includes countries which are not as advanced as developed countries, but have functional economies and infrastructures that are fast growing. But last year saw the weakest growth ever in emerging markets, marking a fifth consecutive decrease and the worst year since the global credit crisis. Russia is in a recession as oil prices tailspin and sanctions weigh heavy. China's growth hit a record low in 2015. Brazil is struggling with its worst recession since the 1930s. India is becoming more vulnerable to shocks with more external debts piling up. With growth being such a challenge for emerging economies, no one can be sure which countries will regain their glorious growth of the days past.
As a group, emerging economies, where do you think its future is?
Well, first of all, Tianwei, there's not such a thing as emerging economies. There's some great ones, some mediocre ones, and some disasters. So don't put them all together. I'm optimistic about things like Kazakhstan now, Nigeria, looking at Iran. I'm an American, so it's difficult. I'm wildly bullish on North Korea, but I cannot do anything. I'm an American. I'm a citizen of the land of the free. we're not very free in the land of the free. We used to be. I'm bullish on China. I'm not buying China, but China is going to be the next great country in the world.
Well, you were talking about the commodity prices. You said the high prices are the problems for the commodities. However, low prices are the solutions for the commodities. Is that still true today?
Absolutely. If there are high prices, people consume less and people produce more. If there are low prices, people produce less and consume more. So it drives the price higher.
But we have seen commodity prices going low for really quite some time. Economies such as Russia, in which we are in right now, St. Petersburg, is suffer greatly as a result of this. So is that logic still working? What is likely to be the future of commodity prices from your perspective?
Oil prices hit bottom a few months ago, and they're now going up again because low prices bring high prices. People cut production in a huge way. Many companies went bankrupt, and other people consume more. So the prices are going back up. Prices will be much higher in 2 or 3 years.
That sounds interesting. However, you have to consider all of these complicated factors. For example, there are alternative energies that are quite popular in the world, unlike before, and also a lot of geopolitical issues going on. So once again, is that logic still the logic today?
Tianwei, life is complicated. It's not
It
easy.
is, Jim.
I wish it were easy.
That's why I'm asking you.
Wouldn't that be wonderful if life were easy? Of course, alternative
I
energy.
prefer it to be complicated.
Okay. Well, there is alternative energy, but it's not very competitive when oil is at $50. Most alternative energy has to be subsidized by the government, some government, whether it's wind power, solar power. They're not great yet. Now, at $300 oil, it'll be very competitive. They won't need subsidies. But at the moment, we have $50 oil. So, yeah, someday, but someday is not here yet.
Not here yet. Therefore, there's a big question mark for economies such as those depending heavily on energy and commodity prices, such as Russia.
Tianwei, my parents taught me to buy low, and Russia is low. Russia is hated. It is probably the most hated stock market in the world right now.
You are doing PR for Russia now,
No,
are you?
I said it's hated. It's cheap. When I see something that's hated and cheap, I like to go and think about buying. I don't always buy, but I came to Russia 2 or 3 years. Tianwei, I was negative on Russia for 47 years.
You did.
47 years. Now I'm bullish. I see it changing. And when something changes, I change.
Changing what way?
Well, at the Kremlin, they start to understand, well, we can't play by the old rules. We have to play by the new rules. We have to treat people properly. We have to help them invest. We cannot steal their money. So everything, and Russia has a lot of resources. It's not a big debtor nation. The United States is the largest debtor nation in the history of the world. Russia's not a big debtor nation.
Talking about emerging economies, you are not just testing with Russia. Previously, you were testing also with India. However, just a few years ago, you were making a very big public announcement saying it is impossible, using your word, to make a profit here. What do you mean exactly, Jim? And why India upset you so much?
I didn't make a big announcement. India made the big announcement. I just said I'm selling India. It's very difficult to do business here. And I sold. Oh boy, they went crazy about it. India, they've got the worst bureaucracy in the world. The Indians learned bureaucracy from the English, and then they made it even better, or worse, depending. That's just very difficult. Mr. Modi, I thought, would be a very exciting politician, leader. He hasn't done much except talk, so I sold.
As simple as that.
It's as simple as that, yeah. But I didn't go, I mean, India went and announced it. I didn't announce it.
Jim Rogers, such a pleasure to have you.
Anyway, it's my pleasure. I'm
Good
a
to see
fan
you,
of
sir.
CCTV.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.